All right, our first speaker, Geoff Klock, has a fancy doctorate from Oxford and teaches at, get ready to woo again, and teaches at BMCC. He wrote a book on comics and another one on poetry, and he got a grant to study Kill Bill, i.e. watching kung fu movies and spaghetti westerns. He tweets at Geoff Klock. You're going to want to look at the screen to know the spellings of Geoff and Klock. Everyone, please welcome Geoff Klock.
Sorry, I'm still reeling from discovering that quinoa is spelled like that. I've literally been hearing about that thing for years, and I didn't know that was how you go. Okay, so, oh, I have to talk in the microphone, don't I? Okay. William Moulton Marston. I'm not used to using a microphone. William Moulton Marston. Okay. William Moulton Marston. Oh, I can look. It's right here. All right, I'm getting the hang of it. All right. William Moulton Marston, born 1893, dies 1974. He has a PhD in psychology from Harvard. A lot of the stuff I'm going to tell you about is pretty impressive. And as I'm going through, you should remember that he has a PhD from Harvard the entire time. It's worth noting that's like the least significant thing that he did, and so you forget. But like, it takes a long time to get a PhD. It's hard from Harvard, and that's a serious degree, and he has that the whole time. So, the first thing he does is he invents the DISC test, the dominance, influence, steadiness, compliance test. This is something that people still use now when evaluating employees. I guess it's a kind of one of these tests you take to see if you're going to be a good employee, like are you going to be productive under a boss, or do you need to be your own boss, or blah, blah, blah. I had a friend of mine that was recently hired, and he had to take the test to get the job. So they're still using this sort of lunatic-y thing. The next thing he does is William Moulton Marston invents the lie detector. Just straight up the thing from Law and Order SVU, the lie detector with the scritchy scratchies, and that he just invented that from scratch. Like, he used his fancy psychology degree and invented a lie detector. So, okay. This is an image of him testing the lie detector when he's sort of classic 19 kind of. I love the photos like this. This poor young woman being sort of bound up with the two men looking on. But I want you to notice the woman off to the far right. Her name is Olive Byrne, and she was a graduate student of William Moulton Marston's. And the one thing I want you to notice about her is notice the hairstyle and notice the bracelet. See the bracelet? Here. All right. So that's Olive Byrne, his graduate student. Then he proceeds to use his fancy lie detector technology to make Gillette ads, because apparently the lie detector charts the emotional effects of shaving. I mean, unfortunately, it's the 40s. This is never going to appear on an episode of Mad Men, but if they ever do a prequel, I think that this advertisement needs to be in there because it's awesome. And actually, he got in trouble for this because, I know it's hard to believe, he massaged the results of the lie detector thing in order to help so the corporate sponsors would be happy with his performance, which is just awesome. This one, I found this online, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it, but apparently he was arrested at one point, and it had to do with he was lying to creditors in order to sort of get more money from investors for something. So not only is he making sketchy Gillette lie detector money, but there's also some kind of other less detailed information where he's getting other sneaky lying to get money and defrauding people. And it's always a good sign. You know, the good financial criminals are the guys where once you learn what they did wrong, you still don't understand what it was. So I think this falls into that category. I had dinner with, I spent Rosh Hashanah dinner with sitting next to a guy from Goldman Sachs who at one point claimed poor people shouldn't eat meat. I'm not, that's what he said. Okay. So this is a picture of William Moulton Marston surrounded by his happy family. I'm not exactly sure who everyone is in the photograph, and I am deeply offended, by the way, that William Moulton Marston does not have a biography about him, because I can't believe there should be a book or a movie or something. But this is William Moulton Marston and his entire happy family. Off to the right, I guess, is his wife Elizabeth. Off to the left. No, I'm flipping this up again, yeah. That woman is Olive Byrne, the graduate student that was featured in the lie detector test. She was his mistress. Now, you might think that his wife over to the side was unhappy about this, but no. They all three of them lived together in a house in Rye, New York. He had 2 children with one woman, and 2 children with the other woman, and he died quite young. He died in his early 50s. And whatever this threesome relationship that he figured out how to have went so well that the women stayed together for another like 30 years until Olive died at 80 years old and Elizabeth lived to 100. She died in 1993, which is absolutely amazing to me. Now, that should be, I mean, to me, this is a life well lived. This guy, I mean, you gotta be, that's pretty impressive, right? I mean, that's awesome. And a normal person would be like, I did a good job and I'm done now. William Marston is not done yet. He invents Wonder Woman. From, like, the character Wonder Woman that Linda Carter as, he made her up from scratch. He had done he was interviewed by the newspaper by his graduate student, Olive Byrne, in what I can only assume was a completely objective interview. He's interviewed and he says, well, comic books are a wonderful way for young people to be educated and grow in society and blah, blah, blah. So he's hired to work as the educational consultant at a comic book company, at a book company that would later merge together, and in a couple of years after he started on the educational board, became DC Comics. And they said, well, and he said he wanted to do a hero. He wanted to, write a superhero, and he obviously a man who is passionate about women, decided that he wanted to have a female character. Now, note the look of her, the haircut, and the bracelets. He modeled Wonder Woman off of his mistress graduate student, Olive Byrne. I think that's completely awesome. So yes, the same, and this grows into the fancy schmancy proper Wonder Woman that we are familiar with. I like that picture. There was no reason to put that in there, and I was just like, I'm putting it in there anyway, because it's cool. All right. So and now that you know that, it's totally fascinating, right? Wonder Woman has a lasso that makes you tell the truth. Of course she does. William Moulton Marston invents the lie detector. Of course he's going to give her that power. That is completely awesome. Well, we'll stay there. Now, I got a bunch of slides to show you next, and I have to be thoroughly honest with you. I pulled some of these off of the internet after closing a safe search on my Google thing. Googling Wonder Woman Bondage at work. Most of these are from the original comic books. There may be a few of these that slipped in from loving parodies, but they're based off the same material. So let me show you what's going on in the comic books that William Moulton Marston wrote about Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman spanking a chick, Wonder Woman getting spanked by a chick, Wonder Woman getting spanked by a dude, Wonder Woman getting tied up by a bunch of chicks, Wonder Woman getting tied up by some people, Wonder Woman tying up another chick, Wonder Woman tied up and gagged by a chick, Wonder Woman being tied up by another woman and put on a bed and gagged at the same time. Wonder Woman being tied up by dudes. Wonder Woman being tied up in the woods by women and then being whipped. And then coming back with, teach an Amazon girl with a little love talk like that? Don't be silly. It's absolutely incredible. Sorry. Wonder Woman tying up some more chicks, and this has my favorite line. On Paradise Island, where we play many binding games, this is considered the safest method of tying a girl's arms. Did I mention on Paradise Island, where Wonder Woman is from, it's all women? And if a man ties up Wonder Woman, she loses all of her powers, like putting silver on a vampire on the True Bloods. So, let's see, Wonder Woman tying up a chick in this picture, and notice the last piece of dialogue. Oh yes, chain me like Paula's slave girls. People begging to be tied up by Wonder Woman. Let's see, Wonder Woman women tying up more women, and there's a line here where she says, I believe these girls disobey because they like to be disciplined. Wonder Woman getting tied up here, and I'd never feel so relaxed. Thank you, Aphrodite, for tying me up and helping me. Wonder Woman, this is a particularly kinky one, in which Wonder Woman appears to be bound by a guy, but in fact, she is binding him and using the lasso to force him to bind her. Just, wow. Okay. Did I mention the gimp mask? There's a gimp mask. This is Wonder Woman tied up and put in a gimp mask. Here's 2 women tying up a guy and putting a gimp mask on him. I don't know if it's fair to read biography into these books, but if the subject of Wonder Woman comics is any indication as to what William Moulton Marston was doing with his wife and his live-in graduate student, that's awesome. And it's bigger than that for him, because not only is he seeming to get off on the bondage, he genuinely believes, and comic book creators are like this, right? Frank Miller believes that, you know, benign fascism is exactly how we should solve all of America's political problems. William Moulton Marston genuinely believed that bondage was the solution to our ills. The only hope for peace is to teach people who are full of pep and unbound force to enjoy being bound. Only when the control of self by others is more pleasant than the unbound assertion of self in human relationships can we hope for a stable, peaceful human society. Giving to others, being controlled by them, submitting to other people cannot possibly be enjoyable without a strong erotic element. Give men an alluring woman stronger than themselves to submit to, and they'll be proud to become her willing slaves. And this philosophy makes it into the comic book. Wonder Woman here says, if girls want to be slaves, there's no harm in that. The bad thing is submitting to a master or an evil mistress like Paula. A good mistress could do wonders with them. This magic metal, it removes the desire to do evil and compels complete obedience to loving authority, which is a line that he uses again here. The only real happiness for anybody is to be bound in obedience to loving authority. That is absolutely amazing. So, in conclusion, William Moulton Marston, did you forget that PhD in psychology that he had from Harvard? PhD in psychology from Harvard. He made money illegally. He lived in an S&M relationship with 2 chicks. He invented, who stayed together for another, 40 years after he was dead. He invented the personality test, which is still used today. Invented the lie detector, still used today. Invented Wonder Woman, still published today. In conclusion, William Moulton Marston, motherfucking American hero.